Hello Sun City Shadow Hills, my name is Chet, Sheehan, your fitness director, and today's YouTube is on stretching. We are going to be focusing on dynamic stretching, so it is movement based versus static hold stretching. It's a fantastic stretch to start your day because it is the only stretching that increases your core temperature. Highly recommend doing this on a daily basis, whether you're going to be doing exercise or not. Fantastic to increase your flexibility and great for before golf, tennis, or any other physical activity.
This first stretch sequence we're going to perform is what I call rocking the baby. We will be performing this in 3 different hand variations. That way we hit every angle of the shoulder. Okay, next up is arm circles backwards. Whatever range of motion is comfortable, just let your arms go nice, fluid, and smooth. We'll be doing this for about 10 to 15 seconds. After you're done, come to a nice slow stop, and we'll continue with arm circles forward. Again, whatever range of motion and angle works for you. We'll get right into the Michael Phelps, as I call him. Just hug yourself, let your arms go right arm over and then left. We will then get into the quad muscle with dynamic butt kicks. Really keep your knees in line with one another so you get the full length stretch in your quad. Then we'll get into the hip flexor. High knees. You can run it out with your arms as well, so we really get the shoulder fired up. Cannot stretch the shoulder enough before exercise. Keep your chest up tall, make sure you don't lean forward or back so you get the full extent of the stretch. Let's go ahead and lay on our right side. Bring your knees up to your chest so you create a 90-degree angle with your upper and lower body. This stretch is what I call the open book stretch. Just envision opening and closing a book. Again, everything is dynamic, moving at not only a speed but a range of motion that's comfortable and safe for you and your body. The idea behind this stretch and every stretch that we perform today is getting the full extent of the stretch feeling. So with this open book stretch, make sure we keep both legs together and make sure that bottom thigh, in this example, your right thigh, remains on the ground the entire time as you open up the book. If you're a person who is quite flexible and wants to get a little more extent of a stretch, you can extend your bottom leg straight out and put your top knee on the ground, holding it down with the bottom arm and continuing the same motion. We are going to be working our thoracic spine here, rotating open, making sure to follow the dynamic moving arm with your eyes so we get into your cervical, neck spine as well. Back and forth, anywhere between 10 and 15 reps. The next stretch we're going to perform is what I call narrow side to sides, a great lower lumbar stretch getting into the lower back. Put your hands palms down against the floor, really trying to keep both shoulders down as you bring both legs to your right and then both legs to your left. If your shoulders will allow, a great way to not only stretch your lower lumbar but to get into the upper thoracic and what's called your latissimus dorsi muscle would be to bring your hands up behind your head, keeping both elbows down on the ground. A modification, if you find that your legs are separating as you bring them from side to side, is to again put a yoga block in between both knees, squeezing that block together as you bring both legs to your right and your left. The next stretch we're going to perform is the same motion, but you're going to open your feet up about 15 to 20 inches, and we call these wide side to sides. A nice physical cue to think about is bringing your left knee to your right ankle and then your right knee to your left ankle. This again is getting into the lower lumbar, your lower back, but also getting in now through the hip flexor and down the quad muscle. Next, we'll get into the hamstrings, the back of the leg, even into the calf and Achilles by doing what we call hamstring kicks. This stretch, really important to feel the full extent, flex the toe up towards the knee in what's called dorsiflexion, and just simply let that leg go up and down. Don't try and control too much of it, just kick up and kick down. Next, we'll point the toe like a ballerina in what we call plantar flexion and continue the same side hamstring kicks. Again, getting the hamstring, but now with that pointing of the toe, you'll feel the sensation of the stretch through the front of the shin and what's called your tibialis anterior muscle, also in through the feet and the toes. Now we will transition into the piriformis stretch. This is a nice sequence starting from a very easy stretch, increasing to moderate and then difficult. So make sure to stay in your comfort zone. The main cue think about here is to keep your pelvis square. That way you get the full extent of the stretch. Now we will be performing what's called a hip thrust, or commonly referred to as a glute bridge. This is your largest single muscle in your body, people, so make sure you do this and you do this correctly. This is the number one way to activate the glute. Squeeze the butt up, trying to perform a nice diagonal straight line at the height of the glute bridge through the knee, hip to the shoulder. A nice way to connect with the glute, a little more activation, would be to flex the toes up off the ground, digging the heels in, and again, think of squeezing the glutes up, and that's why you're getting the elevation. Don't think that you're pushing down with your feet to get the lift off. A variation for your shoulder, instead of putting your palms down on the ground to your side, you can rotate them back into what I call a W. This is a nice way to really get that shoulder and chest cavity opened up. A nice variation to engage what's called your abductor muscles, the outer leg into the gluteus medius, is to get either a Pilates ring or just a simple exercise band and put it around the outside of your knees, making sure to continue to isometrically push outward against the band or Pilates ring. Another nice modification is to grab either a yoga block or again a shirt or anything to put on the inside of both knees, and again statically squeezing inward as you squeeze the glutes up into your glute bridge. Next is the plank. This is the best way to engage both front and back of your core. Done properly, you are engaging your entire lower and upper body. As you can see in the demonstration, for safety, make sure your shoulders directly over your elbow joint, and make sure your feet are together so you can squeeze your heels together, engaging both your lower and upper leg into the glute. Suck the abs up tight into the spine and keep them sucked up tight even as you inhale, even as you exhale. If you find you're struggling with stability keeping your feet together in a narrow position, feel free to open your legs up nice and wide. The wider the base, the more stability you will have. But just remember, the goal would be to ultimately have your feet together. So as you grow and get stronger, bring your feet slowly closer together, ultimately getting to that complete touching and squeezing of the heels together. Another modification, if your strength is not to where you're able to hold the plank for a full minute, you can elevate your hands up onto a platform. If you're at home, a couch or even a stool can work. Just make sure you have some cushion under your elbows so you don't hurt the elbow joint. Next, we're going to look at some no-nos as far as what not to do. We don't want to hurt your lower back, and we definitely don't want to be hurting the shoulder. You want to make sure the glutes, your butt, is about the same height as your shoulders. So make sure you don't cave down into the lower back, putting tension into the lower lumbar, and you definitely don't want to tent that butt up in the air, because that's putting quite a bit of pressure on the rotator cuff.
Thank you for tuning in, and make sure to check the website because there will be many more videos to come.